This is Lady Boulay, and welcome back to Black American Lineage. Thank you for your support. Thank you for all you do to support the channel. And today, I want to introduce you to the black millionaire that every black child who grew up in Alabama in the 40s, 50s, 60s, 70s, 80s, and 90s knew about, and that is A.G. Gaston. He was known as the Black Titan of Alabama, and he was an inspiration to all of us of what was possible with hard work and community service. He was a community man. He was a race man, as they used to say, and he was a man who gave back. A.G. Gaston died in 1996, leaving behind generational wealth of over $130 million. So let me tell you a little bit about Mr. Gaston. Arthur George Gaston was born July 4th, 1892, in Demopolis, Alabama. His father died while he was still an infant, and he grew up in a log cabin with his mother and grandparents, Joe and Adela Gaston, who were formerly enslaved. He moved to Birmingham in 1905 with the Loveman family, who employed his mother as a cook. And the Lovemans were well known in Birmingham for owning a large department store, so they were wealthy. His formal education ended with the 10th grade. After earning his certificate from the Tuggle Institute, which only went to the 10th grade, he served in the army in France during World War I. Returning home from the war, he went to work in the mines run by Tennessee Coal, Iron, and Railroad Company in Fairfield, Alabama. Fairfield is well known as an industrial town. My grandfather on my mother's side and my uncles worked in the mines and at U.S. Steel in Fairfield. So it was a means of black people getting on their feet way back in the day. Gaston's entrepreneurial journey began in 1923 with his launch of the Booker T. Washington Burial Society, offering affordable funerals to co-workers. The business grew fast as Gaston formed ties with local black ministers who sent their members to the business. The pioneering businessman also attracted customers by sponsoring gospel singers and Alabama's first radio program aimed at African Americans. Oh, yes. The cost of joining A.G. Gaston's Burial Society was 25 cents for adults and 15 cents for children. So you paid that weekly for a $75 burial. A $75 burial was a decent burial in the 1920s and 30s. But this is how he built his business, because before then, people were dying and they weren't really having a quality burial. So this was a means of people being able to bury their loved ones in a dignified manner. He started the Booker T. Washington Insurance Company in 1932, named after his hero, Booker T. Washington, the proponent of black economic self-determination. Booker T. Washington started the National Business League in 1881 and encouraged black entrepreneurs to start businesses in their own communities, serving the needs of the people in that community, white and or black. Using his business savvy, A.G. Gaston created new revenue streams by adding burial insurance, undertaking, casket making, and selling burial plots. Seeing a lack of skilled clerks and typists in his daily business operations, in 1939 he started the Booker T. Washington Business College. So he was diversifying all the time. He had the funeral home, he had the burial plots, he had the insurance company, he was making caskets, he even started selling soft drinks at one point. I read his autobiography years ago. It seems like he said when he started trying to sell soft drinks that the people that he had hired to drive the products from one point to the next had them a little side hustle where they were making profits off of his soft drinks. So he discontinued. I don't remember the exact story, but it was something like that. But his autobiography is very inspiring. He has some funny parts and just very interesting. So The title of it is Black Titan, and if you have some time and want to do some interesting reading, you might want to check it out from the library. A.G. Gaston's business kingdom included a savings and loan bank, business college, construction company, motel, real estate firm, burial insurance company, two cemeteries, and two radio stations. He was the founder and chairman of Black Enterprise 100's companies, Citizens Federal Savings Bank, and Booker T. Washington Life Insurance Company in Alabama. A.G. Gaston has been the only entrepreneur to earn the distinction of Black Enterprise Entrepreneur of the Century, earning the honor in 1992, the 20th anniversary of the nation's largest Black owned business. In his interview with Black Enterprise for the appropriately titled article, True Grit, he maintained that getting rich was accidental. He simply tried to fill the needs he observed in the community. And that's what he did. Whenever he saw something that needed to be done, he would just create a business and fill the need for the people. And he made money in the process. A.G. Gaston launched his ventures in part to design platforms to teach Black Americans about business and finance, since for years such training had not been available to them. In fact, Black Enterprise recognized Booker T. Washington Insurance Company as the most innovative company in the management category when the 95-year-old Gaston, who held a 97% controlling interest in the firm, sold the company, which had $35 million in assets and $276 million worth of insurance in force, and all of its subsidiaries to its 400 employees for $3.5 million, a fraction of its value. At the time, such a move was virtually unheard of for founding entrepreneurs, Black or white. And by 2003, Atlanta-based Citizen Trust Bank merged with Citizens Federal Savings Bank in a deal that created a larger institution and retained Black ownership under the parent company, Citizen Bank Charge. And so the businesses that he established are still going strong. Citizen Bank Shares Corporation, today number 5 on the Black Enterprise Banks list with assets of nearly $396 million, the transaction would have most assuredly put a smile on the trailblazer's face had he been alive to see the merger between two Black institutions. Now, this is a striking part of A.G. Gaston's life. He was not an outspoken advocate for civil rights, instead, working quietly for equal treatment for Blacks throughout his adult life. As early as the 1920s, Gaston not only encouraged his customers to save money, he also urged them to register to vote. In the 1950s, he succeeded in having the whites only signs removed from the water fountains in the First National Bank as a result of privately threatening to close his account at the bank if they did not remove the sign. In 1956, he provided a job to Autherine Lucy that gave her the financial support to become the first Black student to register at the University of Alabama. Despite these efforts, Gaston earned criticism from some quarters for his low-key activities in relation to civil rights. Opposing the more confrontational tactics of Fred Shuttlesworth and his Alabama Christian Movement for Human Rights, Gaston served on a committee of 100, a biracial group of Birmingham businessmen dedicated to bringing about desegregation in the city through less public means. Gaston provided space at a reduced rate in his motel to protest leaders Martin Luther King Jr. and Ralph Abernathy for planning for their demonstrations. He also bailed King out of jail when he was arrested in the spring of 1963 during the Birmingham campaign. But now Hosea Williams was running around calling A.G. Gaston and Uncle Tom and said that he was overcharging them to stay in his motel, when in fact it is reported that he was actually letting them stay there free. but it was not to A.G. Gaston's benefit to become politically active with Dr. King and Hosea Williams and Abernathy because they were seen as more radical than A.G. Gaston. So the reality is A.G. Gaston was actually helping the people, the poor people, the regular people of Birmingham doing what he was doing. So the question was he going to get involved in a movement where he would lose his prestige, or should he continue helping people in the way that he was doing? Being diplomatic, I would say that each man had his own mission to fulfill, and that each one fulfilled his mission well. Job well done for both. Furthermore, A.G. Gaston himself was the victim of violence as a result of his support for Dr. King and Abernathy. His motel was bombed in May of 1963. In September of 1963, his home was bombed, although no one was injured. And in 1976, he was again the victim of violence when he was kidnapped by an intruder, beaten with a hammer, handcuffed, and driven around the city for hours before the assailant was apprehended by police. The incident was thought to be prompted more by his financial status rather than his race. A.G. Gaston was married to his wife Minnie for 57 years. They had one son and he had 5 children, so his grandchildren inherited his wealth. One of A.G. Gaston's famous quotes was, "Find a need and fill it. Successful businesses are founded on the needs of people." And that's still true to this day. A.G. Gaston served his generation well. His was a life well lived. He died in Birmingham on January 19th, 1996, at the age of 103. He left behind an insurance company, the Booker T. Washington Insurance Company, a construction firm, the A.G. Gaston Construction Company, Smith and Gaston Funeral Home, and a financial institution, CFS Bank Shares. At 100 years old, A.G. Gaston remained active in business affairs, working in his office on the top floor of Citizens Federal every day despite suffering a stroke in 1992. His age finally caught up with him and he retired in 1995, just 6 months before his death on January 19th, 1996. At the time, he was considered the wealthiest African American in the United States. His inspiration lives on. Those following in his successful footsteps have been honored with the A.G. Gaston Lifetime Achievement Award by Black Enterprise, and those aspiring to follow his example could attend the A.G. Gaston Economic Empowerment Conference held annually in Birmingham since 2005. It would take all evening for me to do justice to this man, but he was a powerhouse in Alabama and eventually in the nation, showing what's possible when you really listen to the needs of the people and work to supply those needs. So anyway, this is the life of A.G. Gaston. He is one of those ancestors that many don't know about, but he is well worth studying. He made his mark during the Jim Crow era, and he continued to be productive in the community, lifting up the community and helping the people of the state of Alabama. So, Mr. A.G. Gaston, continue your peaceful rest. Thank you for listening. Let me know what you think about the video. Give me a thumbs up and have a good evening.